Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Wine, Crime, Murder, Mystery Chronicles. So exciting to be here today. And I want to quickly dive into letting you guys know what we're drinking today for Wine, Crime, and Mystery Chronicles. Today we have Stella Rosa. It's called the Black Luxe Semi-Sweet Edition. And it's really good. This is my first time having this particular brand. I've had the Stella Rosa before, which is one of my favorites. See, this is the regular Stella Rosa. This is the one I usually get, and it's one of my favorites. And so today we're trying the Black Luxe Edition, and it honestly, it tastes very similar to the regular Stella Rosa, Stella Rosso, and it tastes very similar. You taste a hint of berries and strawberries, different berries in it. It's from Italy. It smells sweet. Like even when you smell it, it smells sweet. And the regular Stella Rosa tastes really good with some type of spicy food. And so I assume this will be just as good with spicy food. So yes, that is it for the wine. I had a very hard time this week deciding what I was going to do my story about. It was a toss-up. And weirdly enough, the toss-up that was between the two was not the one that I decided to talk about today. And so today we're going to talk about the Netflix documentary. Why I keep saying documentary American Murder, The Family Next Door. Now, I have a hard time talking or watching any movies, documentaries, things that involve the murder of small children. I have a hard time watching that. So that's one of the reasons that I avoided watching this. It came out on September the 30th. It was in my Netflix must watch trending shows to watch, and I kind of avoided it. Also, when I finally chose this story to talk about, which in a minute I'll say why I decided to talk about this story, I wanted to avoid it because there's so many YouTubers, I see it in my feed, that are doing stories on this particular, on Christopher Watts and his girlfriend and things like that. And so I also didn't want to do it. I like to do stories that a whole lot of YouTubers haven't done stories on, or a lot of people aren't telling a story about. And so I haven't watched any other YouTubers that have done this particular story except for one, which was Unmasked. She talked about the Chris Watts letters, and a lady who had wrote a book about him, and she discussed the letters. I think it was a 6-part series, which was really good. But I'm glad that she had it, because I didn't want to read the book. And so that's the only one that I've watched. But I can't wait to after this to go back and watch the other stations or the other channels to see their thoughts and opinions about this story. So what prompted me to do this particular story is that I was searching for something for another story, doing some research, and it popped up in my news feeds, Chris Watts, no one wants their house. No one wants the Watts house. And I was like, why no? I knew who Chris Watts was, but I'm like, no one wants the house. So then, I love to do stories about real estate. And so I wanted to talk about the real estate portion of this, but an overview of the murders, not getting into too many details. I want to talk about the relationship he had with his mistress. I want to talk about a little bit about the Chris Watts letters, the jailhouse letters that he wrote. I want to talk about the house, the value, the neighbors, and I also want to talk about his fan club that he has today. And then I want to give my conclusion. And throughout it, I will be sharing my opinion. Although I don't normally share my opinions in a lot of the stories, I will definitely be sharing some opinions in there. So let's go. So Chris Watts whatever you like to call him. He is serving multiple life sentences for murdering his wife, Shanann, and their unborn child, well, their unborn son, and his two daughters, Bella and Celeste. And in the Netflix documentary, I'm not going to say documentary because I can't seem to say the word right, but in the Netflix movie, they got a chance to show or give Shanann a voice because she showed so much of her life on social media. So through the social media clips and her text messages to her husband and to her friends, we got to hear her voice. We got to know a lot about her. And she was a very strong, outspoken, go-getter type of lady. Very dominant, the dominant one in the relationship. And in this movie, they portrayed Christopher as this family man who was loving. He loved his kids. He was quiet, kind of to himself, a loner. But I feel like that it didn't really tell the true story of him and who he really was. It just left it as though here's this family man who, in a fit of rage, and decided to murder his wife, and which was weird. So because I'm in a fit of rage, I decided to murder my wife, and I killed my kids, but I also wanted to be with my mistress. It's like that story didn't go together, and throughout the movie, he told so many lies, so it's really hard to see what was the truth. We still, to this day, he's still telling lies, and we still don't know the complete story because he changes it often. And so I just wish if I had the opportunity to be able to see his text messages of who he was prior to him having an affair. Chris Watts murdered his family on August the 13th of 2018, and he confessed to the murders 2 days later. He had murdered his wife, strangled his wife, and then he took took all three of their bodies to an oil field, and he buried his wife in the oil field of his employers and buried her there. And then he took his two daughters and he put them down these 2 oil tanks, each one in an oil tank, which was so careless of him. So, like, that's why I think I was so upset about the portrayal of him in this movie. Like, oh, here he is, this loving husband and this loving dad, but something snapped and made him do this to him. I think they made him out to be way too nice, just way too nice, nicer than I have the ideal that I have of him in my head. Nicole Kessinger, the mistress, the woman who was Chris Watts' reasoning for killing his wife and 2 kids. Now, she portrays herself, or she told the cops and the media that she barely knew Christopher, that they didn't have any discussions of any long-term plans. She also came forward to the cops before Chris was arrested to kind of tell them about their relationship, what he had told her about his missing family. She also, I believe she also participated in a sting or under surveillance, why they had him under surveillance, and she participated in that process. She was portrayed in this movie as a lady who was in the process of getting in a relationship with Christopher Watts. Here, this guy she has an eye for is in a process of going through a separation, and that she didn't know that they were still a couple, or that his wife was pregnant, and that she didn't know any of this, and that she was also portrayed as, oh, I'm this woman who want to step forward and do this due diligence because it's this family that's missing, and I want to tell all that I can tell that I know. This is how she portrayed herself in this movie. Although I feel like there's a lot that was left out about this woman, Miss Nicole, and her participation in this. And we still don't know, and we still don't have it, but let me go into a little of the details about her. So in July, Shanann had left and went on a trip with the girls to North Carolina. That is where they were from. I believe that Chris Watts' parents also lived there. So she left and went to North Carolina to visit her friends, and I'm sure that she was going to take the girls to see his parents. And while he was there, he spent most of his time with Nicole Kessinger. She went to his house. I think it was July the 4th. She went to his house to try to help him put together a diet plan and an exercise routine. Which made me think, is like, even if he was going through a separation, this is his wife's home. Like, why would you go there? But she said that they just ate and she left. Although her story differs from his story about that day. So they went to all type of museums. They went to some sand dunes to hang out. They stayed overnight and camped out for 2 nights at a camping site. And so they really spent a lot of time together. After the police started their investigation, with Nicole's permission, they searched her text history and looked at her phone, and just to see what her involvement in this truly was. And they didn't just take her word for it, but they wanted to see what her involvement was. Now Christopher was away, I think around probably maybe the end of July, maybe the beginning of August. I don't know the dates exactly. He left to go to North Carolina to be with his family, which should have been a red flag to her. I don't remember what the story was he told her as his reasoning for going, but he went to North Carolina to be with his family. And while he was there on August the 4th, Nicole Kessinger had search results of looking for a wedding dress on her search history, and she had looked for a wedding dress for 2 hours. For something that you didn't think was going to be long term, or that you didn't plan anything with, or it wasn't more, why are you looking for wedding dresses, ma'am? She was searching Shannan Watts. And if you search Shannan Watts, you would see that 1, she was pregnant. 2, you would see the wonderful relationship that it appeared that she had with her husband. And so for her to say that she did not know that they were still together, the fact that you were searching her, say that you knew that they were still together. But maybe you wanted that life. I mean, searching for wedding dresses, searching, marrying your mistress. It's like, really? After Watts was arrested, they found that she had been searching Amber Frey. Amber Frey was the mistress of another guy that had killed his wife and unborn child. And Amber Frey had got a book deal. And so she also was searching book deals. It's like, your intentions are not genuine, woman. Your intentions are not genuine. So, yeah, I don't buy the story that she came forward to help investigators, and that, I don't want to be with a guy who would make his wife disappear. Her intentions were to cover up her involvement. And I'm not saying that she plotted with him to kill his wife, but I feel like that she initiated. And in some of his jailhouse letters, which we will go into next, Christopher Watts talk about Amber Fry being a dark person and some of the things that she was into. He doesn't go into detail of what that meant, but she's not innocent at all. So I'll just leave that there. Christopher Watts started after he was arrested and was sentenced to his multiple life sentences in jail. He made connections with many people, and one of the connections that he met was to Shannan Watts, and she is a mystery author writer, and so she reached out because she wanted to capture his story, and she made her connection through Chris's mom, and she connected him and her together. And so Christopher agreed to allow her to write this book using his letters and his story if she agreed to put this passage, this Bible passage or some type of passage in there, which she did. Also, it was said that when she wrote this book that he wouldn't get any of the proceeds from it. But when I was listening to the podcast or the YouTube on the series about this book, at the end it mentioned that that wasn't true, that they were using some of these proceeds to help his appeal. And I'm like, appeal what? So also, Cheryl Crater is a 65-year-old grandmother from northern Illinois, and she wrote him multiple times. She went and visited him, and they would have discussions for like 5 hours at a time. And so she took a lot of detail and a lot of notes, and they exchanged letters. And so through a lot of these letters, we got to hear some of the stories right from the horse's fingers, not mouth, the fingers. And so, not funny, fingers, well, whatever. And so it's also said that whether you believe, like the letters, the actual physical letters, you definitely could believe because they come from his own fingers. But the conversations, unless she recorded it, which I'm not exactly sure if she recorded it, but it was also said that, you know, people who have read her book, they stated that she plagiarized some portions of this book from it's called His Garden, Conversations with a Serial Killer by Ann Howard. And Ann Howard has also kind of confirmed, like, my book was plagiarized. And so it's like, eek. So you can, like, if you're interested in reading the book, just know that some of it, I don't know how true it is. In the book, or in the letters that I happened to see, Chris Watts admitted to trying to make his wife miscarry by giving her oxycodone. Like, she may have said, oh, I had a headache or something, and instead of him getting her a local anesthetic like a Tylenol or something that pregnant women can take, he had her take oxycodone, which made her throw up and made her not feel well. But this was his attempt to make her miscarry. And also and Lord knows how many times he did this to her, because when they did her autopsy, they found that in her system. He also stated in these letters, which, remember I said that his story changes, he's told a story, it changes. Because initially when he first murdered his family, he stated that Shanann had murdered the girls, had smothered the girls, and he saw it, and that put him in his fit of rage and made him kill her. And so now he is saying that he went to the girls' rooms first, smothered them both. You know, they both had separate rooms. Went into one room, smothered that child, went into the other room, smothered that child, and then he went back, finished arguing with his wife, and then he strangled her. And as he was getting her body together, the kids came into the room. which he was shocked because he thought that he had killed them. And he said he was kind of frustrated because they were up running around laughing and playing, and he thought, and now he's like, they're not dead. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about when I say this movie did not portray him as the sicko that he is. And when he describes how he was like, they woke up, and I don't know how they woke up. And he was saying that they had bruises around their faces already just from the trauma of being smothered. Now, I don't know, but it could be. This is my, I don't know, I don't want to say this is my haunting, spooky piece of it. Could be when they wasn't really up. It could be that he had already murdered them and they were dead, and maybe those were just their ghosts. And so when he removed their body, removed the mom's body and put it in the car and put them in the car, they was already dead before. And I could, because I didn't see anywhere where it said, you know, when they died. I didn't see that. I read so much stuff on this story. I don't recall. I don't remember. So I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, please tell me or show me your resource so that I can look it up and see. But they could have been already dead when he put those bodies in the car and put them down the oil tank shafts. And so that's my theory. I could be wrong because I told you I didn't watch any other YouTubers, so I don't know. It just was from my what I read, and that was just my assessment. In one part of the letter, he stated that when he put his baby girls down to sleep that night of the murders, that he put them to bed knowing that this was going to be the last time he saw them, which contradicts his fit of rage, because if you knew that you was going to murder them, it couldn't have been rage. Also, he stated in another part of a different letter that he had been planning for weeks and thinking about it, killing his family. And so, no rage. But it just makes you, and that's a part that they didn't even talk about in the movie. They didn't talk about him planning this or his mind. That's what I would have loved to have seen. All of this to be with his girlfriend. And it's weird because Nicole said that they got together in June, like end of June. And so you would murder your family for a woman that you have been with for, say, 2 months. It makes me think that maybe you know her, maybe it was longer than that. That's just my theory. I just feel like it had to be longer than that. So, what prompted me to really do this video? I was, because it's sad, and I don't really like talking about little kids, beautiful little girls murdered by someone who they admired and looked up to and loved unconditionally. I didn't want to do a story about that, and I also didn't want to go into the details, which I try to kind of stay away from as much as possible. But I really wanted to talk about the house, because that's what prompted me to kind of tell this story, is that doing the search results, I'm like, the Watts house wouldn't sell. It was very, very interesting to me. So the Watts home is a beautiful 5-bedroom, 4-bath home for $392,000 in May of 2013. 6 years later, they still owe $349,000. Well, we'll say Chris owes, because he's the only owner of the house at the time. At the time of the death, or when they decided, the mortgage company or the lender decided that they wanted to cut their losses and try to get what they could, because of course bills are not being paid. The assessed value was at $550,000. Although on Zillow today it shows that the value is about $592,000. And I read somewhere on one of the sites that it was said that the value, I think it was at Realtor, that the value was in the 600,000s. And it's a bit of a stretch, but it possibly could have, say it wasn't for these murders, because even the Zillow price, that's if you believe Zillow prices. I kind of do. When I'm thinking of a price of a home, I kind of use Zillow, but I use other resources also. I don't just go off their Zestimate. But those values do not take into consideration that a murder was at the house. So we know that when someone is murdered at a house, that the value should be decreased about 20 and 35% to be able to entice people to purchase, those people who are okay with purchasing those type of houses. And so with this house, I feel when they took it, I think in like either March or April of 2019, they put the house up for auction. Of course, no one bought it because it's still on the market today. But when they put it on the market, they put it on at auction amount of $510,000, which would have put them at that 25-30% range. But I don't think that was enough. I've even seen because they've put it, like, tried to auction it a couple of times between that April and now, and it wouldn't sell. And so I've seen some of the amounts go under the 500,000 mark, but I think that it should be even lower than that, and I'll kind of go into that a little later. When I talked about this case or about this house and the value, we already know that there's a decrease, right? But what interests me more about this particular house is not really the house itself, is the neighborhood, the neighbors' houses, the two immediate neighbors on each side of the Watts house. What are their houses valued at? Did anyone else on the street after this murder try to sell their home? Would you buy a home on one of these on the street, knowing that one is going to attract people to come and take pictures on your street, to just be loitering and driving up and down your street, driving slow? Would you want to live on a street like this? And so I was very interested in the values of the houses on the street, specifically the two houses on each side of the Watts house. So let's dive into that, because I believe one of the neighbors is one who captured him on video with his video system, putting Shanann's, it didn't see him putting Shanann's body in there, but it captured that moment. And so did he try to sell his house? I don't know. I'm not going to tell, because there's two houses that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about neighbor one, neighbor two, but I'm not going to say which is which. So let's get into that. Before I get into talking about the two neighbors' homes, whether they listed, sold, how well, the values, I will say, I believe, it's in my opinion, that around February or March of 2020, I think the neighbors on the street or in the neighborhood got wind that a movie was coming out in September, because it seems as though most of the neighbors put their homes on the market in March, or sold their homes in March. And so it was very interesting to see that. And so with that happening, you have more competition. There's an influx of houses. Yeah. So it made it hard for, I'm sure, some of them to sell. So neighbor one, at the end of August, so the murders happened August 13th of 2018. This neighbor put their house up for sale on August the 30th of 2018 for $457,000. He received an offer in September. The offer fell through. Whether they decided to back out or it fell through for financial reasons, they put it back on the market, and then they took it back off the market in October of 2018. 2 years later, March the 16th of 2020. Remember I said that all of the neighbors started putting their houses or sold their houses in March of 2020. The house listed for $500,000. Shortly after that, I think at the end of March or at the beginning of April, they lowered the price to $485,000. In May, they took the house off the market. I don't know if he felt like, or she, I don't know. I don't know if it's a he or she because I don't remember which neighbor it is. But I'm sure they're not getting what they paid. They're not getting what they felt that it was worth. So, neighbor two. Neighbor two originally purchased their house very similar to the Watts for $362,000 in May of 2013. They sold their house for $460,000 in March of 2020. Another one of those neighbors but this one sold their house. There was a increase of about 22% over the 2-year period. But if you think about it, so this particular neighbor finally sold their house in March of 2020 for $460,000. It's $100,000 difference from a little less than $100,000 from what they paid for it 7 years prior. But the first neighbor, when he originally put his house on the market, when the murders happened, he felt that his house was worth $457,000. Maybe he had decreased it or not decreased it, but that was 2 years prior. And so now this very similar, 2 years prior, and this particular neighbor sold their house for the exact same price that he was listing his house for back then. And so, and what I noticed in the pattern of a lot of the houses that sold in this area and on this street is that the closer the house was to the Watts home, the less the home sold for. So the further out that the houses got, they sold for more. Because I saw some houses on this block that sold for over $500,000. So the further away it got from the Watts house, the more it sold for. So it's unfortunate. You never know that, you move into a neighborhood that your neighbor is going to murder somebody in the house next door to you. And so that's the unfortunate part. So not only do the value get impacted by the house that is involved, the houses around it and immediately next door are also impacted, which I never thought of, which I found very interesting. So this is just my opinion. I feel that if they want this house to sell, that they're going to have to sell this house for a lot less than the $460,000 that the house next door to it sold for. So maybe they should take their 25 to 35% off of that amount, and then that should be the house, what they list the house for. Again, I'm just an investor. I'm not a complete expert. And so I would love to hear someone put in the chat what your thoughts are. But that's what I think. And so, even at that amount with them on still, $349,000, it's not going to be a lot to pay off all of their creditors, because after all this time, one, the mortgage needs to be paid off. You have the taxes, the HOA. Shanann's parents sued Chris for $6 million. They were awarded $6 million. Of course, he doesn't have any money. So if there's any money left over from this house, it would go to them. So all of the creditors would have to be paid off. And I don't know, some of them may not get paid off because it may not sell for enough. But at this point, as I always ask, would you buy this house? It's a beautiful house. I think they may need to kind of make it over and give it a new look. It cannot look like this same house again. The last time this house was put up for auction, well, I'll say the last time this home was withdrawn from auction was June the 24th of 2020. And I don't know if they also decided to take it off the market due to the movie coming out, but I'm sure that that movie had some impact on the houses selling, or that particular house selling. And so maybe they'll let it die down, and maybe they'll give it a complete makeover, because it needs a complete makeover. That house, the picture of that house is everywhere. It needs a complete makeover. Now, Chris Watts today, I don't really want to talk about him per se, but the guy he's a handsome guy. I'm not going to take it away from him. He's a very handsome man, and it says, I read that he has these fans, these adoring women that love, I call it love after lockup, even though there will not be love, there will be no love after lockup for him. It'll be love in lockup for him. And so there's women who write him continuously. There was a lady, one of the lady who was said to be his girlfriend, who tried to prevent this book from coming out, that they go visit him. He get visitors from these women, tons of letters. There's also people who send him prayers and are praying for him. There's also, what they say is that there are women who he's had affairs with that were his ladies prior to these murders, that he was seen, or that he had seen prior to the murders, that are also coming to see him and send him letters. And none of these women are bothered by the fact that this man murdered his wife and kids. And I think also that it could be because they believe his original story, that he killed his wife because she had killed the kids. And I know that he admitted to killing the kids, but it is said that he admitted to killing the kids so that he wouldn't get the death penalty, and that if he pleaded guilty to killing them, then the death penalty would be taken away. So that is their stance. Even his family, his parents, they feel that the reason why he's there, or that, is because he killed her because she killed the kids. I don't know. But the fact that I'm sure that after this, that so much more is going to come out. And I am so looking forward to going back and listening to the other YouTubers and some of these other stories. And it's because I feel that there is more to the Nicole Kessinger that is not being told. Even though today I heard, well, they said that she got put into witness protection program, but I don't believe that. But because I did read somewhere that, I think it was I read an article from October that stated that they had records showing that she attempted to change her name 2 months earlier than that October 2020 article. So she's trying to, she's left the town. She's trying to get a new identity. She's trying to create her own witness protection program. But I don't believe she's in a witness protection program. I believe she's just trying to change her image and who she is, and try to disappear. It also, I don't know if it was an interview I read that it stated that Chris receives postcards from Hawaii, and he believes that those postcards that come from Hawaii is Nicole. It would not surprise me if it was her. It wouldn't surprise me none the least at all. But it's amazing that men who are accused of such heinous crimes get women to send them money, send them things. I don't know. But yeah, I think more is going to come out. More is going to come out about the affairs that he had prior to Nicole Kessinger, or while he was with her also. So I'm interested in seeing what happens going forward. I also want to note that this has been one of the hardest stories I've had to tell, or that I've done. so many things have gone weird with it. My computer would act funny on whichever computer I went to. It would act funny. I could not get my words out correctly doing this video. My chair would go up or fall down just weirdly. It was just weird. So many weird things happened with trying to do this video. Well, that is it. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching and listening to me ramble on. And if you have not already, please subscribe. Please ring the bell. Please leave comments. I just appreciate the time that you're giving me and helping me build this community. And I hope that you join me next week for the next video. And I'm thinking of doing a little short video with my daughter for a question and answers about all around me doing wine, crime, mystery chronicles. So I hope you join me for that also. Thank you.